Hi, I'm John Stevenson, and we're going to be talking about covenant renewal, 1 Samuel chapter 12, in our continuing study of 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter 12, verse 1, Then Samuel said to all Israel, Behold, I have listened to your voice in all that you said to me. And remember, they hadn't said some nice things. And I have appointed a king over you. He's warned them, but they wanted the king anyway, and now Samuel has heeded that. Verse 2, Now here is the king walking before you. It's Saul. He's come into his own. But I am old and gray, and behold, my sons are with you, and I've walked before you from my youth even to this day. Verse 3, Here I am, and notice how he starts off this. Bear witness against me before the Lord. This is going to be legal language. And we see it right from the outset. Bear witness against me before the Lord and his anointed. His anointed, remember, is Saul. Whose ox have I taken? Or whose donkey have I taken? Or whom have I defrauded? Whom have I oppressed? Or from whose hand have I taken a bribe to blind my eyes with it? I will restore it to you. And really, he's saying this because he has been honest. He has been a prophet. He has been a judge, but he's been a prophet and a judge with integrity. Verse 4, they said, You have not defrauded us or oppressed us or taken anything from any man's hand. Sure enough, nothing can be said about Samuel of a negative manner in those areas. Verse 5, he said to them, The Lord is witness against you. Notice he is calling God to be a witness against you, and his anointed is witness this day that you have found nothing in my hand. And they said, He is witness. Again, this is legal language. So the point in verses 1 through 5, Samuel has been faithful. But now we're going to see that God has also been faithful, beginning in verse 6. Verse 6, Then Samuel said to the people, It is the Lord who appointed Moses and Aaron, and who brought your fathers up from the land of Egypt. So now take your stand. Notice that language. Again, that's the language of legalese, it's legal language. Take your stand, that I may plead with you before the Lord concerning all the righteous acts of the Lord, which he did for you and your fathers. You've already noted officially, I haven't done wrong, but God has not done wrong either. He has been faithful in the same way that I've been faithful. Actually, he's been a lot more faithful. Verse 8, When Jacob went into Egypt and your fathers cried out to the Lord, then the Lord sent Moses and Aaron, who brought your fathers out of Egypt and settled them in this place. But they forgot the Lord. Notice, God's been faithful. Your fathers haven't been so faithful, verse 9, but they forgot the Lord their God, so that he sold them into the hand of Sisera, captain of the army of Hazor, and into the hand of the Philistines, and into the hand of the king of Moab, and they fought against them. Verse 10, they cried out to the Lord and said, We have sinned because we have forsaken the Lord and have served the Baals and the Ashtaroth. But now deliver us from the hands of our enemies, and we will serve you. So they were punished because of that, because of their unfaithfulness. They repented at their unfaithfulness. They promised to serve God. Verse 11, Then the Lord sent Jerubbaal, that's another name for Gideon, and Badan and Jephthah and Samuel, and delivered you from the hands of your enemies all around you, so that you lived in security. God has been faithful to deliver you. So God has been faithful, Samuel has been faithful, God has been faithful, but now we see that Israel has not been faithful. It's already been alluded to before, but now it's going to be clearly stated. Verse 12, when you saw that Nahash, and this was just in the previous chapter, when you saw that Nahash, the king of the sons of Ammon, came against you, you said to me, No, but a king shall reign over us, although the Lord your God was your king. Verse 13, Now therefore, here is the king whom you have chosen, whom you have asked for, and behold, the Lord has set a king over you. Verse 14, If you will fear the Lord, and serve him, and listen to his voice, and not rebel against the command of the Lord, then both you and also the king who reigns over you, that's Saul, will follow the Lord your God. If you will not listen to the voice of the Lord, but rebel against the command of the Lord, then the hand of the Lord will be against you, as it was against your fathers. And so Israel has not been faithful, but now there's the covenant sign. There's going to be a sign for this covenant. Verse 16, even now, take your stand. Remember, that's covenant language. That's legal language. Take your stand and see this great thing which the Lord will do before your eyes. Is it not the wheat harvest today? Now, wheat harvest, you have to understand this, that comes once the rainy season is over. Rainy season is in the winter months, beginning around October, ending around March. But then you wait a bit longer, and now you have the time of the wheat harvest. So by the time of the wheat harvest, that's the time when the rainy season is now past, and you're in the middle of the dry season. So verse 17, is it not the wheat harvest today? I will call to the Lord that he may send thunder and rain. That doesn't normally come at wheat harvest. And then you will know and see that your wickedness is great, which you have done in the sight of the Lord by asking for yourselves a king. You asked for a king. Watch what the real king can do. Verse 18, so Samuel called to the Lord, and the Lord sent thunder and rain that day, and all the people greatly feared the Lord and Samuel. They see the hand of the king that they have rejected. They wanted a king with skin on. What they wanted was a lesser king. Verse 19, then all the people said to Samuel, pray for your servants to the Lord your God, so that we may not die, for we have added to all our sins this evil by asking for ourselves a king. They get it. They get to see the hand of the real king in action. And so we've seen the covenant sign, we see the storm, but now we see the covenant renewal, beginning in verse 20. Verse 20, Samuel said to the people, do not fear. You have committed all this evil, yet do not turn aside from following the Lord, but serve the Lord with all your heart. You must not turn aside, for then you would go after futile things, things which cannot profit or deliver, because they are futile. They're empty. Don't go after empty things. Verse 22, for the Lord will not abandon his people on account of his great name, because the Lord has been pleased to make you a people for himself. Moreover, and notice this in verse 23, we're actually going to come back to that. Moreover, as for me, far be it from me that I should sin against the Lord by ceasing to pray for you. Samuel is in that role of interceding, of praying for the people of God. He goes on to say, but I will instruct you in the good and right way. Only fear the Lord and serve him in truth with all your heart, for consider what great things he has done for you. But if you still do wickedly, both you and your king will be swept away. Which path are you going to take? Are you going to turn to the Lord? Are you going to continue to follow him? Are you going to serve him? Or will you go down an alternate path and be swept away? It reminds us, notice that verse 23 that we just read, where Samuel says, moreover, as for me, far be from me that I should sin against the Lord by ceasing to pray for you. We have an intercessor. As they had Samuel the intercessor, so we have Jesus the intercessor, who has come to live, to die for us, and who continues to instruct us in the good and right way.